Hello, everyone. Hola todos. Welcome back to the Tiki Tapas Podcast. This is episode 7. And in case you're wondering why we are in black and white this week, well, it is the La Liga Retro Week. I mean, this is just a treat for our YouTube viewers. Spotify listeners, we're sorry we can't do anything to the audio. But for our YouTube viewers who've been with us for the last 7 weeks watching every episode, well, now you are seeing us in black and white. And as you can see, the retro weekend is in full flow. I've got my Valencia retro jersey, and in fact, there's gonna be something coming up at the end of the episode where we talk about the retro week and the amazing jerseys that have been introduced by La Liga. But before that, Rahul, first of all, how are you doing? It's been a
Yeah,
busy week
good.
again.
Enjoying Retro Week so far. It's been a
Yeah,
great one.
I'm sure you also have your picks for the three favorites that you're gonna reveal to us at the end of the episode, right? Because I don't know yours, you don't know mine. Let's see if we have any mutual picks that we liked, right? So exciting uh, end to the episode it will be.
Yeah, so far, I think it's been a roaring success. I think the graphics and the lineup graphics, the scoreline graphics, they've been brilliant, and I actually want to keep them beyond this week. And it's just been such a good marketing move, which is not
Mm,
something I often say about La Liga, but
mhm.
everyone's enjoying it. You could tell the players and coaches are all really enthused by it, even though
Yeah,
it's something for the fans as well.
yeah,
And everyone's bought into it, and it's hit a kind of bigger audience
yeah.
than just normal La Liga viewers. It could be the start of something revolutionary we see across
Hmm.
other leagues. So
Hmm.
yeah, credit to La Liga. They've nailed it.
Yeah, Javier Tebas finally, did something good for the marketing of La Liga. As they say, a broken clock is right twice a day. But we are going to talk more about the Retro Week at the end of the episode. In fact, this is the first of two episodes that we're going to come out with this week because, as many of you know, the Copa del Rey final is happening this weekend. Atletico Madrid versus the Real Sociedad. It's going to be a banger of a game, and we had to do a special little episode that's very focused, very compact, just talking about the Copa del Rey, the preview, the history, what we can expect, what's going to happen. And so me and Rahul will be back next Thursday, this Thursday rather, to talk about Copa del Rey. So if that's something that you would like, make sure you tune back on Thursday to listen to that episode because surprise, surprise, we're back again. You can't get enough of us this week. Well, with that being said, this week, as we just mentioned, cracking week, not just because of the aesthetics, not just because of the football, but so many results. There was chaos at the bottom of the table. There was movement everywhere in La Liga. Barcelona have almost slipped away with the league. Atletico Madrid played like 15-year-olds in the team because they wanted to keep themselves fresh for the Champions League. Rahul, what are your thoughts about this week and some of the games that, of course, we're going to have one match that we're going to focus on in a bit, but so many things happened this week, right? What's something you would like to start off with?
Well, I think the relegation battle is something we've talked about a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And that has taken so many different turns this week because pretty much everyone in the battle won.
Yeah.
Like Oviedo won 3-0 away at Celta, which I don't think anyone was expecting at all.
Yeah.
They've somehow kept themselves even with a slither of a chance of staying up.
Yeah.
And then we've also seen Alaves draw. We saw Mallorca win. We saw Sevilla win.
Mm.
And so it shows no sign of kind of the bottom three slipping away at all.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's still in the battle. And
Mm.
even someone like Elche beating Valencia, that has almost
Mm.
dragged Valencia back down again. And it's there's so much to unpack from this relegation battle, and it's still so unpredictable who could go down. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's probably the most entertaining relegation battle in Europe, given that the sides at the bottom are still capable of picking up points.
Yeah, definitely. As I think you mentioned that last week that this La Liga has the highest last place team in terms of points, right? So that was last week, and now Real Oviedo has added 3 more points to it. So it just doesn't seem like that we have a clear idea that who are the three teams that are gonna go down. Sevilla were 18th after the first after Saturday they were 18th, and then they won their game. Now they're on 15th or something like that. So it's just so volatile. Teams are going up and down, and next week, in fact, Sevilla is gonna face off against Levante, and that's gonna be a cracker of a game because it's gonna really bring the relegation battle into focus, right? Because Levante, of course, 19th, Sevilla, they are 15th now, but anything could happen. A result for Levante, and they could just completely topple Sevilla down. So, wasn't there something we talked about that they have Sevilla has the hardest fixture list coming up before the end of the season, and that's gonna be really bad for them, right?
Oh yeah, out of all of the teams around them, they've by far got the hardest fixture list. They have some seriously tough away trips in there,
Yeah.
and their home form has actually not been amazing until
Hmm.
beating Atletico's essentially second team.
Hmm.
And so that game at Levante, I've got a ticket. I will be there. Um,
Ooh.
if Levante, and I'm also going to be at Levante Getafe tonight at the time of recording.
Oh wow.
If Levante can get points out of both of those games,
Mm.
then they have every chance of staying up. I think if Levante lose to Sevilla and that builds up a bigger gap, then Sevilla can save themselves and Levante are probably down.
Mhm.
So that Thursday night relegation battle at Levante at Estadio Ciutat de Valencia,
Mhm.
that feels like it's going to be almost a cup final to stay up. And so I'm really excited for that game.
Yeah, next week we're gonna do a much deeper dive on these two teams and the relegation battle. But for this week, we have a team that, I mean, when you look at their counterparts in the English Premier League, it's Tottenham. But if you look at them in La Liga, it's the same team that has not won a single game in 2026. You could say that Tottenham are in a worse position because they are in 18th in the Premier League, but somehow their counterpart in that regard, Espanyol, who just lost the Barcelona derby this week, they haven't won a single game since 23rd of December, before Christmas. But they somehow still find themselves in the 10th position in La Liga. Is that a testament to their early charge towards La Liga, where they lost very important games because it was expected? They lost to Real Madrid, they lost to Villarreal. These are teams you expect Espanyol to probably have a tough time with, but every other opponent, they've almost steamrolled it. They were on a dominating run. But since Christmas, something has happened, and they haven't able to get a single result on board. It's 14 games running now without a win. Still, as I said, they find themselves in 10th, and a few good results can completely change their destiny. So, what is going wrong with Espanyol? It's such a concerning question, right?
Yeah, and I think something you just said really plays a big part is the feel good factor.
Hmm.
Because going into this run of 14 without a win, they won 5 in a row in La Liga. They were
Oh yeah,
flying.
yeah,
They were talking about Europe. They were a contender to finish 5th,
yeah.
and everyone was impressed by them in terms of results. I think in terms of performances, there was a fair bit of overperformance, which has caught up
Hmm.
to them in
Hmm.
that they were averaging low possession every game, which isn't a problem, but they were brilliant in both boxes
Hmm.
and they were clinical and they were able to protect their own goal well. And yeah, it just meant they kind of had this siege, this surge towards the top, and where they just kept winning. But the game which then set it all off, which ruined it, was the Catalan derby, the game
Hmm.
against Barcelona. Joan Garcia returning to Espanyol. The atmosphere was so heated. They were confident going into that game. They had just won 5 in a row,
Hmm.
and they actually played really well in the game. They missed a fair few chances. They had more shots on target than Barcelona,
Hmm.
but they lost late on, 2 late Barcelona goals. It destroyed them. Like the way that the pre-game for that was built, the atmosphere, the storyline of Garcia coming back, everything about that game almost made it feel like a cup final.
Hmm.
And to then lose that in such a brutal fashion late on after missing several big chances,
Yeah.
that's what's really kind of set them on a downward spiral. But even when I talk about overperformance and it catching up and a downward spiral, I didn't expect this. This is just absurd. It's 14 without a win.
Yeah.
You don't know where they're going to get the next points from, and suddenly you're looking at a bottom half finish again.
Yeah.
And yeah, the second derby against Barcelona, maybe that could also be a turning point in coming out of the game at the Camp Nou for them to be kind of right, we really need to fix it. We need to buck our ideas up. But I was very unimpressed with them in the game. I thought all the good stuff we saw from Espanyol in the first half of the season, really good midfield play, players like Mia, players like Edu Exposito,
Mm.
they were fantastic in the first half of the season. You put them in a
Yeah.
LaLiga team of the season at that point.
Yeah.
And I feel like now just the confidence around the squad is so low. There's no one stepping up with goals, no one driving the team forward. And when you have a player as experienced as the goalkeeper Dimitrovic,
Mm.
he had a really, really tough game at the Camp Nou.
Yeah.
When that happens to someone as experienced as him, who's a bit of a leader in the dressing room, then you just know there's something wrong there. And I don't know how you solve it. I don't think a change of manager is necessary at all. I think Manolo's top.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't think they're in relegation trouble just because their first half of the season performance kept them away from there. But next season, you've got to worry if they don't pick it up towards the end of this season.
Yeah, and you mentioned the players and you mentioned the manager Manolo Gonzalez, who of course led them back to the Primera División when he took over charge when Espanyol were down in La Liga's Segunda División, and surprisingly, the last month when Espanyol were winning games, he was named the La Liga Manager of the Month. So did that get to his head or something? Because he got that trophy in December, which was when Espanyol last won their game. And since the Christmas break, we talked about, they are finding themselves in turmoil. They're in a crisis. But again, if you look at the La Liga table, they are 10th with 38 points. Europe is just 6 points away, and Celta and Betis both have been dropping points. They have been drawing, and they've not been consistent in the last 2-3 weeks, of course, because Europe is coming up as well. So you just have to think, if Espanyol could have gotten at least 2 results out of the last 14 or 3 out of the last 14, they were literally in European contention and probably a spot in the top 5, top 6, because that's how close it is in the midfield. And I do not think changing the manager is a solution as well. But what can they do with the summer? Maybe it's the time to rethink, maybe regroup over the summer, observe the World Cup, see if there's any players that maybe they might try to, from probably a lesser known country where they think that, okay, these players could be probably better for us. I haven't really heard any rumors of who they're linked with over the summer. They don't really air their laundry out about what the transfer rumors are going to be. But yeah, I mean, the way they started the season, Barcelona fans were a bit concerned because they're city rivals, and they were like, "Oh, there's the contention is happening again." It's like a Girona situation again, where Girona were the best Catalan team for first half of the season in 2023, and they thought Espanyol was going to do that as well, but unfortunately, it didn't happen. Yeah, do you think? You mentioned Dimitrovic, of course, very much experienced. Do you think the loss of Joan Garcia kind of played any factor to that? Even though it was the first half was really good, but do you think just the fact that they lost such a key player before the start of the season and to their rivals as well, has that kind of psychologically affected them? Maybe got their morals down a bit, or is just thought out there? What do you think about that?
It's a tough one because Joan Garcia kept them up last season. There was no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But they did start this season well, and they were grinding out results. So I don't think their confidence was hit at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I said, I think that losing that derby really just ruined their confidence. But something to note is that in the entire first half of this season, they only won one game by more than one goal. So every single game was marginal, except for Real Oviedo away. They beat 2-0. Every single other win was 1-0, 2-1, 3-2. So I think there was a lot of, as I said, overperformance, not necessarily luck, but they were in a false position. And I think I said it at the time as well. But this also feels like a false position because in this losing run and drawing run, they've only lost 2 games by more than 2 goals. And that was Villarreal away and Atletico away. And now Barcelona.
Yeah.
So all of their games have been really tight. They're all on a knife edge. And yeah, if we're doing results-based analysis, then it could go either way.
Mm.
And I think with the exact same performances they give, if they're just a bit more clinical in front of goal, if they're better in their own box, then we're looking at a few wins in the last 14.
Yeah.
And there's less to analyze. They're probably a couple of places higher up.
Yeah.
So there's two things to consider. One, is this their right position? 10th, mid-table, winning a few, losing a few, and it's just come into extreme circumstances of winning endlessly and then losing endlessly. And two, if they had Joan Garcia in goal, he is someone who, for Barcelona this season and for 2 seasons at Espanyol, he was the difference in marginal situation. He would turn a 2-1 loss into a 1-1 draw or even a 1-0 win.
Yeah.
In those biggest moments, he's someone who makes every save 1v1. He's not someone who would do what Dimitrovic did at the Camp Nou, which was give away at least 2 of those 4 goals.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, if I look at some of these defeats they've had, I'm not necessarily blaming Dimitrovic here.
No.
I think Garcia is just so good in those margins that I think it would have made something of a difference, but I don't think they would have necessarily finished 5th. I think, yeah, this is just a fairer reflection. 10th right now is a fairer reflection of where they are. And it's just come in the weirdest way possible, because it's not often you see teams go on such contrasting runs of forms in the same season.
Yeah. Boy, I'm glad John Garcia plays for my club. Eh? But we're moving on from that, from that discussion. I mean, great point to talk about Espanyol, as we've kind of sprinkled on a bit before many episodes as well about Espanyol and their positions in the league. But moving on from Espanyol for a bit, Villarreal played this week against Athletic Club, and there was something incredible that happened that you brought to my attention and to your Twitter fans as well, which we have decided to pick as our moment of the week. So, Rahul, what was it that happened this week that we have decided that it's not a goal, it's not a great highlight, or it's not a dribble, it's just something that relates to fans and the football pitch. So, what is it, Rahul?
So, when we were deciding on moment of the week, I had 2 in mind until the Villarreal game last night, and that was the celebration of Bonya, the debutant for Atletico Madrid, when he scored on his senior debut, having been at Atletico since he was 7.
Yeah.
And his celebration was like he won the World Cup final, and I think that was brilliant.
Yeah.
And then another moment of the week was a less positive one, where in Valencia's 1-0 loss to Elche, the ball comes across the box. Striker Lucas Beltran is there, ready to tap into an open goal. And I honestly don't know how he does it, but he puts it wide. And I couldn't believe it, where he's almost falling. He's falling he's completely off balance. It hits the wrong foot, and he buries his head after. He couldn't believe it either. And that's a massive sliding doors moment, potentially, if it means Elche stay up or it drags Valencia down.
Yeah.
So that was going to be my moment of the week, I think. But then at San Mamés, Villarreal won there for the first time since 2018 and played pretty well. But my moment of the week isn't focusing on the football. It's focusing on one specific moment, which I actually didn't realize happened until after. And that was Buchanan was off the pitch, and a few of the fans started throwing foil balls at him. And the reason fans have foil in the ground is from their bocadillos.
Okay.
So a few of them fly onto the pitch, and Athletic Club fans are thinking they probably had the last laugh there. One goes literally onto the pitch, and then Athletic Club substitute, Robert Navarro, he's then dribbling. He's trying to create a chance for Athletic Club. He then dribbles into one of these foil balls. And because of the shape of it, because it's quite a strong ball,
yeah.
Ball hits it, and he gets tackled by the foil ball, and he loses possession. And that to me is incredible. It's his own fans thinking they have the last laugh of the foil's on the pitch, and then suddenly it's actually denied them a run at goal. And that for me is just so funny. That is karma working in circles there. So that for me is the moment of the week. And like Villarreal will be laughing their heads off of that.
Yeah, and what a moment of the week. And if you want to see that in full, head over to Rahul's Twitter, LaLiga London. He's got the footage up there. So in case you want to see what happened. But yeah, moving on from the funny moment, from this hilarious incident, to something that happened between Real Sociedad and Alaves this week, which is going to be our match of the week, because Alaves once again are proving that new manager bounces are really a thing. And at this point, you can't even call it a bounce. Quique Sanchez Flores has been there for 6 games, and he has the bounce lasts for a few games to allow the team to kind of adapt to the new tactics, to adapt to the new ideas. And now I think Alaves are just fully firing on all cylinders. They might not have the results, but I guess Quique Sanchez Flores has perfectly implemented what he wants into the team, because as I'm talking about this, Alaves have played 6 games under Quique Sanchez Flores, and they've only lost two. They have only got one win, but even that one win was a 4-3 win against Celta Vigo. And those two losses came in the first 2 games for Quique Sanchez Flores. It was against Levante and Valencia, right? So actually, Alaves played 3 Valencian teams in a row. They played Levante, Valencia, and then Villarreal, and they didn't win in any of them. They won this match against Celta Vigo, and just this week they played Real Sociedad, and 3-3 on the night, including a 97th minute goal by Boy. I guess we have talked about Alaves and Quique Sanchez Flores so much already in the last episodes, but if you look at Real Sociedad just before the Copa del Rey final, is this a result that they would have liked heading into Seville? Does it kind of bo- destroy a bit of their momentum, because it should have been a victory? They scored well, and they controlled the game well, but again, lapse of concentration at the end, or where Alaves just too good, too locked in, and did what they have been doing best under Quique Sanchez Flores, which is keep the game until late and then get a result.
Well, this was one of the games of the season just because it had absolutely everything. And it was 2-2 after 27 minutes?
Yeah.
And the goals are so contrasting for both teams, because Alaves is both of their first 2 goals were just calamitous errors from Real Sociedad, like comical errors, the type you see in a cartoon. And Real Sociedad's goals were 2 absolute screamers. So La Real going to the cup final, they would love the fact that 2 of their midfielders scored long range efforts to, get their sight of goal and to build a bit of confidence there. But they cannot defend like that against Atleti. Like, imagine that attack if they're chucking their own goals into their net. Then what are they going to do against that? Julian Alvarez and look with Griezmann. So that was a concern defensively, and as a mentality thing as well. They went 1-0 down in 3 minutes. They recovered. They got the lead back. They were 3-2 up.
Yeah.
And then the 97th minute, it's a wonder goal from Lucas Boye. It's a brilliant goal. But to just not see that game out, not see that result out, it just means maybe heads drop a bit in the dressing room. And who knows, it could go the other way. It could kick them a bit and be like, we can't be this complacent. We've got to wake up. We've got to sharpen up at the back. But something I want to talk about Alaves here, because the Lucas Boye goal, the winner, it reminds me so much of Iniesta's goal against Chelsea. And shout out to Gary on Twitter who pointed that out to me, because it's actually insane, like the parallels there, where the ball comes in from the left. And the ball is Denis Suarez in this sense. And it's the 97th minute to completely break the home side's heart. And then Boye, he just swings his foot at it, a bit like Iniesta, the way he gets a back lift off his foot, and he swings his foot at it, and it just rifles into the top right corner. So if you were to put both those goals side by side, there's so many parallels to make there. And yeah, Lucas Boye, Iniesta, 2 players of very similar quality, but yeah, I think it's another example in the last few weeks under Quique, when we talk about Alaves, the 90 plus 7 minutes against Villarreal they conceded against Valencia, they conceded twice in injury time.
Mm,
So that was them losing leads. But then now it's flipped the script. They
mm,
fought to get a point really well.
mm,
And that is something that they will actually take a lot of confidence from in the relegation battle.
mhm.
But every Alaves game under Quique Sanchez Flores has been really good viewing. I think
Yeah,
in the same way it used to be always watch Betis, it's now
yeah.
always watch Alaves because who knows what's going to happen. And even if you don't watch most of the game, just tune in the 90th minute. Something's bound to
Yeah.
happen there.
Yeah, you're right. And Alaves' next game is against Real Madrid. So with Real Madrid, with the way they have been, losing or dropping points, they just drop points of the week, and then a few match days ago as well, two losses in a row. Well, if Alaves can pull another upset, they would do a great favor to Barcelona. Hope that Alaves, whatever the result is, they keep on entertaining us fans like they have been done, and it's a great advertisement for La Liga as well. If any fans who are listening to the podcast but don't really know what team to pick or where to start watching La Liga, you know, for the rest of the season, just watch Alaves. It's only 6 games remaining. Watch Alaves, and you'll get your money's worth. So, yeah, we will be talking about Alaves a lot. I feel as the as the season comes to a close, and of course, Real Sociedad. We are gonna talk about them uh, in the episode on Thursday. Just a reminder again that the Copa del Rey special episode will come out just one day before the Copa del Rey final. Uh, Real Sociedad, as you mentioned, they would be confident that their midfielders are they are in good form and they score goal. But Sergio Gomez, he got a red card for Real Sociedad. Does that? I don't know if the rules are still the same, but I'm just wondering because even getting a red card just before the Copa del Rey final, it doesn't affect them that much because of course it's a different accommodation. Uh, but if they see the way Atletico Madrid has been playing, like the win against Barcelona in the Champions League, and here they are conceding own goals to Alaves and conceding late goals to Alaves. Maybe they head into this fixture. I don't know, a bit. I don't really know how they'll be thinking. I don't think they'll be at fully confident before the game because Atletico Madrid, of course, have been dropping points. They dropped to Sevilla, but then they played their academy players, and they lost to Barcelona in the league just before the Champions League game. They lost to Real Madrid before that. So Atleti, except for the UCL game, hasn't had a great run comparatively. But as they say, Real Sociedad, they have Ori Oscarson, por la mañana ka. I don't want to sing. I don't want to get copyrighted in case Bad Bunny is kind of comes and gives me a copyright. So, but yeah, Ori Oscarson is he might he might be the savior. He might cause some great results. Do you have any thoughts about Arias Carson before we close the Real Sociedad segment? Because I love his personality. I love the way he has come into Real Sociedad and become such a good player and also such a fan favorite. The way he has been singing along with the fans whenever he gets substituted off. The fans sing whenever the big game, the semifinal. He was singing with the fans. So such a great personality to have, of course, in the squad and for La Real.
Yeah, and I think he's got the best song in football right now. And that really helps build a connection with the fans. He's someone who's really growing on me. I think he can miss a lot of chances and he
Yeah.
can be quite a frustrating striker, but
Mhm.
at his best, he stepped up in several big moments for them.
Mhm.
And it was a really good header he scored against Alaves as well.
Mhm.
And that should have been the winning goal, really. Like I think he
Yeah.
he would be fuming that his teammates let him down a bit there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like under Pellegrino Matarazzo, they've been very good.
Yeah.
He has had such a big impact there. And he's also beaten some of the bigger teams where
Mhm.
they beat Barcelona.
Mhm.
But in some of the other games, like when they lose badly.
Mm.
And the Villarreal game just before the national international break was probably a big example where he got the he got the setup completely wrong and they were ripped apart within 25 minutes. And they were 3-0 down, it could have been 5. And that's a worry for him because against these counter-attacking sides, they look a bit vulnerable.
Mhm.
And with the speed Atleti have on the counter, a bit like what Barcelona found out the other day. I think if Real Sociedad try and play a high press,
Mm.
then they could find themselves a few goals down early on. But
Yeah.
it'll be a really big test of kind of both his tactic, both his tactics and also the squad, the mentality.
Hmm.
Can they've conceded a lot of goals recently, and can they come back and just be a bit more solid
Mm.
in a one-off cup final? But yeah, like Ori Osterson has taken them to Sevilla, and
Yeah.
let's see if who will be the one celebrating it full time. But yeah, I think
Yeah.
that will be something more to discuss on the bonus episode this week.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. We will be watching Oriol Carson's career with great interest and see what happens with Real Sociedad and Atletico Madrid this weekend. But here, with that being said, I think we've covered a lot of the football today. We've talked about all the important stuff, all things we have to look forward to. We don't want to go into Europe today because everything is hanging on the edge. Not all the Spanish teams have not really put in the greatest of performances. In especially Celta, who went 3 goals down at Freiburg, and they have a mountain to climb in the return fixture. Rayo Vallecano, shout out to them because they have made Spain proud. They're probably the only team that has made Spain proud. With that victory against AEK Athens. Of course, there's the what was the name of the guy you gave a shout out to? Isn't he an Athens fan last week?
Oh yeah, David. Yeah, I was just
David.
speaking to him, and he couldn't believe that IK Athens went and tried to play a high press against Rio,
Rayo.
um, and it really showed. I think Rio were fantastic. So
Yeah.
yeah, that should be them through, but you never know in
Yeah.
football.
Yeah, of course, Rayo. We would be hoping for Rayo Vallecano to go through as well because they're such a, as we discussed so many times, the community around that club and the way they have found themselves in this position is a miracle, no less than a miracle. They're in middle of La Liga and they are flying in the Conference League. And yeah, we will do a European talk next episode when all the results are out, what we can expect, how many teams remain. We really flexed a lot when we said 6 teams in the European competitions from Spain, and what only one of them. I mean, Atleti has a result against a Spanish team, and and Rayo Vallecano has a result. Every other team has a mountain to climb, right? So yeah, we hope we don't have to bite our tongues in the next episode, and that we just see this one team remains, and that's Athletic. We don't want that. Yeah, so we will talk about that next episode. But since let's move on from Champions League, let's move on from Europe and bring it back to La Liga for a bit and talk about the retro week, which we have been giving it all the flowers we should. And as you said, it was such a great promotional activity for La Liga and Spanish football in general. It has not been done before in the top 5 leagues. Do you think it kind of will inspire other leagues as well to probably try something similar? I don't. I do think with the commercial value of retro jerseys, it's such a every football fan loves to wear jerseys, but then when you put the nostalgia into it, when you mix it with a bit of classic, you know, everyone likes it. So do you think teams in the Prem has got a classic collection of retro jerseys? Do you think Bundesliga, Serie A? Imagine Serie A retro weekend. That would be sold out in a matter of minutes. Do you think next season, or maybe in a few seasons from now, we could probably even see a Champions League retro week? What do you think? I'm so excited for this La Liga retro week to kind of now allow other leagues and other associations to kind of take similar risks. I would say in a way.
Yeah, it's as I say, I think it's been an unequivocal success. I don't think
Yeah.
there's been a single negative to it that I can think of.
Yeah.
I don't know the ins and outs of the kind of licensing regulations
Mm.
and why Barcelona, Getafe, and Real Madrid refused to participate. But I am really, really keen on seeing this becoming a regular thing, maybe once a
Mm-hmm.
season. Because, as you say, retro, everything retro in football is becoming more and more popular. I think with the way the modern game is going, there's a lot of longing and nostalgia
Mm-hmm.
for us to relive our youth, but
Yeah.
also just for the way football was played before it became too money focused. I
Mm.
think football was, I hate to be old man yells at cloud here, but football was more fun years ago and
Yeah,
kits were also better.
yeah.
And I think part of that is kits felt more iconic because there were less coming out every year.
Mm.
Now with some clubs, you get home, away, third, like child's kit, dog kit, one-off kit. Like you get a kit for almost a kit, new different training kit or
Yeah.
like
I get
like
you. I get
a kit released every week and a half.
you.
And so it does take the value out of modern shirts a bit. Whereas when you think of iconic football moments, you think of the retro shirts that were worn at the time.
Mm.
And it's just the style of them, which, like this weekend, when you're looking around the shirts that were worn around the grounds, they're brilliant. And yeah, I think it was groundbreaking. And I think because it was a success with no downside whatsoever, as far as I'm aware, like if anyone wants to correct me on that, I think you will see some other leagues copy it. And imagine a Serie A
Yeah.
retro league you play. Imagine like the AC Milan kits that you could have on display there.
Ooh.
And same in the Premier League. Again, who knows now with modern marketing where you need a
Yeah.
sponsor on every single part of the kit. And yeah, are you going to have Visit Rwanda on a remake of Arsenal 4 kit? Who knows? But I think the idea is there, and it's not just the kits as well. It's the graphics, it's the referee's uniform, it's the
Yeah.
rules.
Yeah.
And even in the stadiums, it was noticeable. And shout out to my friend Dan, who is from England, and he went to La Hanez at the weekend
Oh.
on a trip to Madrid. And he's not someone who's followed Spanish football too closely over the years, but
Hmm.
he said he really appreciated the retro style and the retro kits and the retro graphics on the screens in the stadium.
Yeah.
And it's just a thing that it gets more eyes on La Liga because it's a groundbreaking concept. It's not happened in football before. I believe it's happened in other sports, but
Mm.
it's it's grabbed the attention of kit lovers, of nostalgia lovers, of just football lovers around the world who may
Mm.
not follow a La Liga team, but then they tune in to one of the games this weekend and they just see the
Yeah.
old style graphics and the kits and
Yeah.
yeah, and then they decide, yeah, what a brilliant novel concept. So
Yeah.
yeah, so we talked about the benefits of the retro week, but then going back into the kit aspect of it, which were your favorites?
Oh man, it was. I went through every single kit once as soon as they did that fashion show at the Madrid Fashion Week, except for like the ones that didn't participate. And I even wrote an article about it for the company I work for as well. And I was like observing every single kit. But when you observe it on a fashion model compared to when you see it, like when you see it on the pitch, when players are wearing it and they're running and dribbling, it just evokes such a sense of nostalgia for a period where I didn't even probably exist, or where a period where I didn't even watch football, right? That for me, the first favorite for me is undoubtedly that Villarreal yellow gold sort of kit with the logo right in the center. I think just watching that, because Villarreal and yellow are such an iconic combination for so long. But since they made the switch to fully yellow shirts, yellow kits, with around 2002 or 2004, I think it was, and I just loved watching that color. It evokes such a sense of nostalgia. It evokes such a sense of kind of like, oh, I traveled back into the past for a bit, like watching Villarreal for that game. And also I think Villarreal, the association that people have with the color yellow, the yellow submarines they call it just was the perfect opportunity. They could have gone even retro and used their other, before they went all yellow. I think they were used to wear blue shorts, and they had the different colors as well, which was back in the 1950s or 1940s. But they stuck to what they planned to do, and they completely knocked it out of the park, and I loved it. And because of that, when I talk about the next kid I like, I'm gonna come back to it before I hear your favorite kid as well. The fact that they stuck to what is the identity in the modern era is also why I love Villarreal. But the next kid, I'm gonna come back to them. Tell me your favorite kid first, then I'm gonna
My, Villarreal bias here, but mine was also the Villarreal one.
tell.
And
Yeah,
it wasn't initially. And something you've said there, where
yeah,
when you saw it in Madrid Fashion Week
yeah,
and on a model
yeah,
compared to in full kit,
yeah,
I think that was the deciding factor for me because
yeah.
Villarreal wore blue shorts yesterday.
Yeah.
And that meant the color combination was just incredible
Mm.
because there was a dark shade of yellow,
Hmm.
and compared to like, that one behind me
Yeah.
from 2018, and it was a dark shade of yellow than what's normal. It almost felt a bit gold, but
Yeah.
then the combination with the blue,
Yeah.
it's just spectacular. And so it won me over when I saw it on the pitch yesterday. It felt like the most retro style one.
Yeah.
Villarreal fully bought into it as a club, so they also put retro graphics in
Yeah.
some of their videos from the game yesterday,
Yeah.
and it's brilliant. And this morning I woke up and my
Yeah.
thumbs were twitching, and I bit the bullet and I just ordered one.
Hey.
So in a future episode, if and when it
Ah.
arrives in the post, I will be wearing it.
Oh, you
Um,
should definitely. Would love to see that on the podcast.
oh yeah, because I think even though I'm biased here, obviously I do think it's the best kit.
No, yeah.
And the best overall kit, and
Yeah.
it felt the most old school as well. When
Yeah.
Mikhail Tadze and Danny Parejo came on,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that those for me are the two most old school style,
Yeah.
kind of in their haircuts, in the way they play.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the most old school style players in the Villarreal squad, and seeing them at a historic ground like San Mamés in that
Mm.
kit, it was just
Mm.
phenomenal. But then yeah, the rest of the bottom, well, rest of the top three rather. What was your second favorite?
Well, I'm gonna tell my second favorite in relation to the first Villarreal kit. As I mentioned, Villarreal, the way they stuck to their original colors, their identity. But something that a team did really bold was ditch their identity and go for their first ever kit, kind of inspired by their first ever kit, and that was Celta Vigo. Celta Vigo ditched their iconic sky blue for this retro week and made a red and white kit, which was, if I am correct, the colors of the kit that they played in 1910 or 1909. Basically, the first time they played in color, they played with that red and white. So it was a perfect like homage to their yesteryears and the how the club got established, and just the beauty of the origins of Celta Vigo. But the thing is that when they played in that kit before the retro week against Alaves, which we just talked about, they lost 3-4. So maybe that kit did not bring them that much luck if we talk about that. But I 100% love the design. I love the fact that they were so bold with it, because so many fans would wonder, like so many casuals would wonder. I was wondering, why it's not light blue? What happened? Then I looked it up and I went back and saw the history and the first kits, and it absolutely amazed me that they decided to completely did something that has made them so iconic, that color, light blue, and go with red and white. And my last one is, I picked three. The last one is from Segunda Division, and it's the Deportivo La Coruña jersey. I'm
Oh,
asking you to go watch it if you haven't watched the kit. It's so good. It's blue again. I mean, do I have a fixation with the color blue? I don't know. But it's blue. The logo is blue. The sponsors are all blue. And there's like thin blue stripes coming over the white, sort of glazy white color. I don't know if it's actually silver or is it actually white, but the color, when I'm looking at the pictures, it just shines. It just catches your eye. And just the blue on top of it with the colors here is blue. The stripes are blue. Sponsors, crest, and sponsor Galicia sponsors here, the iconic Estrella Galicia. Ah, looks so good. I mean, man, I would buy that in a heartbeat if I could, but it's just impossible for me right now. But maybe once the kits come on sale, maybe a bit of discount, I'm definitely copying the Deportivo La Coruña. But yeah, that those are my three: Celta, Villarreal, and Deportivo La Coruña. Deportivo La Coruña, who I hope do get promotion and come back to La Liga this season, next season. We would love to see them back, of course, former La Liga champions, 2000 champions. But yeah, tell me about the rest of your picks for the retro week.
well, my second one was also a northern team,
Ooh,
and it was someone we talked about this episode, which is Alaves.
yay! I knew it.
And for those who normally watch us on YouTube, you'll
Yeah,
often see that in every other episode, I've worn
yeah,
a shirt from a La Liga club or that
yeah,
Spain 2004 one there.
yeah.
But today I'm wearing Boca Juniors.
Ooh,
And the reason for that is that A, this is a very nice retro shirt, but B, it's because Alaves, their kit that he wore at the weekend
Mm-hmm.
was actually inspired by Boca because it's the same. It was a remake of the one they wore in the 2001 Europa League final,
Mm-hmm.
UEFA Cup final,
Yep.
rather, where they lost to Liverpool. And their kit was inspired at the time by these similar Boca Juniors kits. I think this is from 2002, actually, but the same style, blue, yellow, blue,
Mm.
um, the color combination of it, the exact same patterning. And the Alaves kit this weekend was phenomenal, and it made for great viewing. But
Yeah.
they had the game of the weekend, and I think that's partly inspired by the kit.
Yeah.
And who knows, Lucas Boye, Argentinian, scoring to beat Liga. So there's a lot of parallels to be
The
made there.
spirit of
That one,
Maradona got
and
into
yeah,
them.
the spirit of Riquelme with spirits of Maradona.
Uh,
So yeah, I loved Alaves' kit this weekend,
yeah.
and if I hadn't just spent the last money in my bank account on the Villarreal one, I think that would have been one under contention there as well. And my third pick was like you, also from Segunda Division, who also participated
Mm.
in the weekend, and mine was actually Real Racing Santander
Ooh.
because that is a mostly white kit with
Yeah.
hints of green all
Yeah.
over their colors.
Yeah.
It's just so clean, and
Yeah.
that just has such a retro feel to it. The kind of loose fit, and yeah, just how sleek and clean it is. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think with them on the potential verge of returning to La Liga, yeah, I think their kits are going to become even more popular. And who knows, you might see this shirt flying around everywhere. But because it's such a nice shirt, it's just an objectively nice kit.
Yeah.
So yeah, Real Racing Santander, you have my attention.
Yeah, I mean, agree with you as well because I saw the kit and it was very hard for me to choose just three because, as you said, Racing Santander, the kit is so well designed, the green kind of popping up amongst the white, which is the iconic Racing Santander colors as well, and they did a really good job at replicating the previous era with their kit. And Racing Santander is also top of Segunda Division right now, unless they fell down because they're not having the greatest of forms. But last I checked, they were top of the Segunda Division, and of course, you picked Racing Santander. I picked Deportivo La Coruña. Maybe they meet each other in the playoffs. Who knows? Or maybe they both meet each other next season in La Liga. And next week, next La Liga season when they do the retro week again, I'm definitely copying Deportivo La Coruña jersey for sure. And maybe I'll have a impulsive buy like you did for Villarreal today.
Oh yeah, the impulse buy is always the best because as soon as the money left my account, I was thinking, "Oh God, what have I done?" But when that shirt arrives, I'm gonna be like, "Okay, yeah, like fully worth it," because it's just such a nice kit, and I can't wait to wear it at five-a-side and yeah, like maybe grow a mustache and a mullet and pretend I'm in the
Ooh.
70s. But
Oh wow.
yeah, no, we love retro kits.
Yeah, definitely. We love retro kits, we love retro weekends, and we love talking about La Liga and Spanish football, which we have now successfully done for 7 weeks. As it brings this episode to a close, where we talked about Espanyol's worries, we talked about our match of the week. Again, Alaves finding themselves in our discussions because they are a team you can't stop talking about. We talked about, or rather did not talk about Europe because it's not having the greatest of time for Spanish teams right now. And of course, our favorite part of this episode was diving a bit into nostalgia and talking about retro kits and the times that have given us such good memories and such good players and iconic moments as well. With that being said, Rahul, this episode has also come to a close. How do you feel about this episode and what are we gonna talk about? Just a preview before we wrap this up. What are we gonna talk about on the episode on Thursday?
Well, so La Liga, after my trip to Levante against Getafe tonight, it
Mm-hmm.
takes a bit of a break for the next 10 days or so
Mm-hmm.
because in on the weekend it's the Copa del Rey final. And what I love about the Copa del Rey is that the whole world stops to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
And that means there's no other La Liga games going on like there are in the FA Cup nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
And all attention will be on that. So Thursday, we're going to talk nothing but the cup final.
Mm-hmm.
Both teams, Real Sociedad, Atletico Madrid,
Mm-hmm.
their form going into it, the tactics, the predicted lineups, but also the storylines, Antoine Griezmann, Alex Storloff. facing
Mm-hmm.
their old team, the history of both teams in the cup, the history of the cup. We have a lot to cover, and that's why we decided to dedicate an entire episode to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that on Thursday.
Yeah, definitely tune in because as Rahul just said, we are gonna talk a lot, but we are also gonna. It's not gonna be a full length episode. We're not gonna ramble for 50 minutes like we do in a normal episode. It's gonna be more tighter. It's gonna be more concise and just gonna we're gonna cover everything in that time. So please tune in if you are a Copa del Rey. If you're gonna watch the Copa del Rey final on Saturday, first thing you should do is listen to us on Thursday. Yeah, we are excited to bring that bonus episode to you. But as of now, we have to take our leave. We've recorded a wonderful episode, and we hope that you enjoyed this. We thank you for tuning to Tiki Tapas podcast, whether you're watching it on YouTube or whether you're watching it or listening to it on Spotify. Thanks for tuning with us for 7 weeks now. And with that being said, I think that is the end of this episode. Muchas gracias por todos. Thank you for tuning in. Rahul, take it away, my friend.
Hasta luego.
Oh, that's a new word. You didn't say hasta pronto today. That's a new word. I see that you're improving your Spanish
God,
every
mix it
day.
up.
Yeah, next week. I wonder what's next week, huh? Let's see. Maybe we do a full episode in Spanish. But all right, then. That brings an end to the episode. Muchas gracias. I will say it this time. Hasta pronto. Hasta este jueves.